Exclusive interview with Western Cape Judge President John Hlophe, and to help us unpack the seriousness of the allegations against him and measures needed to restore public confidence in the judiciary. I'm joined now by Diane Walker, who is Newzroom Afrika's Special Projects Editor. Diane, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us tonight on the Newsfeed Late Night. So it's a very thick conversation. I mean, it's 20 years of worth of a career, if you really look at it. But what's clearly coming out of this conversation, Diane, is the fact that there are certain divisions within the judiciary, and this is something that you impressed upon the Judge President over and over again, but also there seems to be a weakness in the system, in the inability to hold judges accountable. But before we get to that, let's traverse the messy kind of history of this Judge President and his brushes with impeachment. I mean, he came on the scene in '95, first black judge to go to the Western Cape High Court. 5 years later, he's appointed to head that court. When does he begin to be embroiled in these series of controversies?
Well, I think there's always been a bit of controversy, Thabo, around Judge Hlophe. I mean, he attributes it to there being some unhappiness with him in the Western Cape, and you know, the real number where it became a serious, I would say, would be when the Constitutional Court laid a complaint against him in 2008. That's the complaint that has really plagued him for the longest, really continuing over a length of time to be unresolved. While it was heard in part, they didn't really get to the real issues of who did what, and they didn't really determine whether anyone in the story was lying, because to be quite honest, the story of that conversation that he mentioned there didn't quite match. You've got Judge Hlophe saying he just went to speak to two colleagues at the Constitutional Court. You've got the Constitutional Court as a group saying that conversation was an attempt to influence the court. But at the same time, you've got the two judges who were actually involved in those conversations saying that they didn't feel it was necessary for them to lay complaints. I think the issue here really, Thabo, as you mentioned, is that it's really unseemly us to have, after such a long time, an unresolved complaint against such a senior judge. And then also, I suppose, for more complaints to come, and we're not sure how long those will take to be resolved. I don't think that we've had a good history when it comes to finalizing against judges. If you look at the issue of Judge Nkola Motata, I mean, he is a judge who was found criminally guilty, but he's also spent an extended period of time trying to kind of resolve this issue with the Judicial Service Commission. And to this day, he still has not actually been removed from the position of being a judge, despite having a criminal judgment against him. So I think as a nation, we should really consider how seriously we take finalizing these complaints against judges, particularly since they are a very high level of public servant. Judges get paid quite a significant amount of money, but also, unlike politicians, they don't leave office and those paychecks end. They continue to be paid even afterwards. So we really should pay quite a close attention to what's happening in the judiciary.
Diane Walker, stay with us. We're joined now by the retired Constitutional Court judge who chairs the Freedom Under Law movement, Justice Johan Krichler. Justice Krichler, good evening, and thank you very much for your time tonight on the Newsfeed Late Night. We heard, and I'm hoping you were able to catch that interview with the Judge President in the Western Cape, John Hlophe. He says, in a nutshell, he's mistakenly identified here as a villain when, in fact, he is a victim. Is this a correct perception of himself? I mean, is that the general view in the legal community?
I don't know what the view in the general community is, but I do not believe that it is proper for a judge to use the media as a way to publicize his defense against charges against him. I think Judge John Hlophe, by going public through the media against his colleagues, has behaved as equally disgracefully as he has consistently for many, many years.
Now, allegations of misconduct have been leveled against him, as you put it, for many, many years. Yet, he has managed to sidestep the consequences. Is there something intrinsically wrong in the system that, or a weakness in the system that has this inability to hold those who do not behave properly with misconduct to account?
The system is not perfect, but the system can work if everybody is prepared to make it work. Judge John Hlophe has been ducking and diving for 12 years. He puts up a complaint that he is the victim. He is not the victim. He is the fugitive from justice on the complaint of all of the judges of the Constitutional Court 12 years ago, that he tried to influence the court in favor of Jacob Zuma, who was at that stage not yet president. He has ducked and dived that hearing for 12 years. That's the simple truth. He sits up at the street now, saying that he's a leader, and that's we're not.
All right, that line there with the retired judge of the Constitutional Court, Justice Johan Krichler, they're deteriorating. We'll try and establish that connection with him, but let's take a break now. When we continue next, we'll hear more from Diane, as well as speak to Judges Matters and their view on the outcomes of that particular conversation, and why these particular matters have actually been delayed for so long without any transparency and accountability that needs to come with this, particularly with those who we trust to dispense justice in our courts. Stay with us. The Newsfeed Late Night continues next. Begazeli, good evening.
Good evening, Thabo.
Are you well?
I'm well. How are you?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much. We can hear you loud and clear, so we can come to you in a moment.
Can you see me?
Yeah. Begazeli, do you have headsets close by?
I actually don't have headsets near me.
Earphones, nothing?
No. Is there an echo of some sort?
It's just better when you've got them in terms of consistency of the sound.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Dan, Wena, do you have your headsets?
Yo, Tabo, I have like big ones. Hang on, let me try and find my small ones. I couldn't hear anything from Krichler, so I don't know if you wanted me to respond to that, but I didn't hear what he said.
Yeah, the line was, the Judge Krichler's line was bad.
Okay, I found some headsets.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Dan, speak again.
Hold on. Testing. You hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, there you are.
Is that clear? Okay,
yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Back with you now on the Newsfeed Late Night, and we continue our conversation. Diane Walker, she is our contributing editor here at Newzroom Afrika, in conversation with Judge President of the Western Cape High Court, Judge John Hlophe. One of the issues that came out, Diane, in your conversation is the issue of the media being used in whatever, be it a political plot, be it jealousy for the judge, whatever it is. And there is this constant theme that's coming out of documents being leaked to the media even before he's found knowledge of them or has had wind of what is contained in those documents. Is the relationship kind of a difficult one between Judge Hlophe and the media at this point?
Look, I think he would say the relationship is a difficult one, but the fact of the matter is his complaints have also been reported on, as much as the complaints that he has laid against, or that have been laid against him. So it's not as if the reporting is one-sided. A simple Google will reveal that there are reports on the complaints laid against him, as well as the complaints he's laid. I think the issue really is also that, once things are not finalized for such a long period of time, the story will always come back to the fact that there was this complaint that's laid against a judge president by judges of the Constitutional Court, and that it's not complete. There isn't a final outcome. So until that complaint is finalized, the story around it will not die. It will continue to be a factor of his life, in the same way that it will continue to be a factor of the lives of the other judges who were involved in this case. So really at the heart of it, I think there is an absolute need for the Judicial Service Commission to finalize this matter when they meet again on the 7th of December. And I think that there's also some skepticism about whether that's going to actually happen. So far, there have been about 14 different legal challenges from different quarters in relation to that first complaint. We now have a second complaint, which also needs to be finalized, and Judge Hlophe has laid a complaint against the Chief Justice. So one can imagine that if there were 14 legal challenges in relation to that one complaint, you might see a continuation of that trend, because lawyers will do what lawyers do. They will litigate. I think that what needs to happen really is for the Judicial Service Commission to really just move the process forward and to actually begin the hearing of some of these matters, so that this, public spat, as we're seeing it unfold, doesn't continue for another 10 years.
Judge Hlophe's case has highlighted a need for greater transparency, one would say, when dealing with errant judges. Joining me now to talk about this and more is Research and Advocacy Officer at Judges Matter, Mbegezeli Benjamin. Mbegezeli, good evening, and thank you very much for your time. This particular judge president has had brushes with impeachment at least 3 times. Only one of the complaints against him has resulted in him actually facing an impeachment inquiry. But even that inquiry has been stalled now for, one would say, for 12 years. I mean, when you look at that, it doesn't give any hope that actually this matter will see any resolution. There's no resolution in sight. What are the reasons why it's taking so long to get to a resolution on this matter?
Good evening, Taban. Good evening to Newzroom Afrika viewers. I think Diane spoke about one of the main reasons why it has taken so long. Is that there has been litigation that has tied up the whole process for quite a number of years. And at each stage, almost inevitably, there will be some sort of legal challenge that is brought, and that has caused some considerable delay. You'll recall, for example, in 2018, after all the legal challenges by Justice Jafta and Justice Kabinde were concluded, in 2018 it was supposed to proceed. And then there was a recusal application brought against one of the members who was supposed to sit on the panel of the tribunal panel. That member was Judge Musi, and a recusal application was brought against him. He did, in fact, recuse himself, and that caused a delay. And each time there's been a number of delays. Part of those delays have been caused, for example, by issues of legal fees and who's responsible for paying what. And all of those things really do diminish the status of the conduct system, and it is a cause for concern.
Yeah. Now let's look at the process, for example, in the matter of Judge Mushtaq Parker, right? The Judicial Services Commission, writing to the president, they would want to have that judge suspended while this matter is going on. He rendered 2 versions of the matter, this question of assault, but not only that, there are some other issues around the trust fund and the deficit, and these are complaints that are brought on by 10 other judges. Yet you also have Judge President John Hlophe, who is also facing facing a tribunal by the Judicial Services Commission. However, he still continues in that High Court. In fact, if you ask him in that conversation, he says, well, things are actually going very well, even with all this turmoil and these charges that are being brought against me, but we are dispensing justice. Is that really true? Is justice impacted in any way when the judge president sitting on there is facing such serious charges?
Yeah. Well, I heard from the interview, Judge President Hlophe mentioned that the court is still functioning, still operational, the cases are still being heard and being dealt with, which he is close to the issues, and so we can trust his word. But there is a concern about all of this happening, the working environment, because outside of the numbers, there are people in that court building. Those people are affected by what's going on, and one does wonder how it affects them, and it affects their ability to stay on as officials in the court system or as judges themselves, because it can't be nice having a colleague or a leader of a particular organization having such serious allegations against them. And this also actually speaks to this issue of the conduct system not being efficient enough to deal with these complaints, to anticipate that there might be certain loopholes that might be exploited, and try as much as possible to close those loopholes, because there are many loopholes in the conduct system, and unfortunately it does no benefit to the judiciary as an institution.
Now, all these revelations around judges and some judges versus judge and all the things that are happening behind the chambers, which are now playing out and are revealed to us that otherwise we would not have known. What does that say about the integrity of those who are sitting on the bench? Should we as the public begin to ask those questions, and how does this then affect the perception that the public has about certain rulings, particularly which involve political figures, and you've got your favorite and the other one has got their favorite, and the factional battles that go on within political parties?
Well, I think one benefit that we have of the judiciary is that they have to reason for any decision that they take. They have to provide written reasons of why they took certain facts into consideration, how they applied the law, and how they arrived at the outcome that came out of the day. Whoever is involved, whether it is a high-profile political figure or it's an ordinary person like you and me who is before the courts, we are entitled to a reasoned judgment. And that reasoned judgment, we can interrogate it, and if we are not happy with it, we can take it on appeal. So whatever background incidents or events are happening, we can at least rest assured that we can be able to question the decisions. So, for example, if any of what is happening currently in the Western Cape High Court has any bearing on the case, and we suspect that a judge took a particular decision because of whatever is happening in the background, we would be able to see that in the judgment that comes out, and we would be fortunately be able to take it on appeal, for example, to a different set of judges in the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein who are not close to the issues and who can be able to interrogate the reasons of their judgment. And that is an important quality assurance and confidence building mechanism within the judicial system. Yes, what is currently happening is a cause for concern for the general public, but at least we can take comfort in that judges are accountable for providing reasons for whatever decisions that they take.
More than that, though, the criticism of his leadership in particular, be it justified or unjustified according to his view, but his leadership of that particular court comes into question, does it not? And is that confidence building in any way?
Yeah. Well, what is currently happening is not an ideal situation, even if, let's say, the particular personalities in this situation were not involved. If any court, for example, had a situation where the leader and his deputy had serious allegations against them, it would make all of us pause and maybe be worried about what's happening. But at the same time, we do have to understand that in cases such as this, the system should be able to respond. The system should be nimble and robust enough to be able to deal with them effectively. And we should trust the system to deal with allegations, whatever allegations, and effectively move them forward so that we have clarity on whether or not the allegations are true or they are not. And yes, I do admit that it's not a good look. It's not a good picture that we have currently in the Western Cape. But again, the system is such that it should be responsive to that, and we need to put pressure on the system to respond. We should be putting pressure on the Judicial Service Commission to be transparent on the process and be dealing with these complaints as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Diane, what do we know now as far as this matter of Judge Parker is concerned? You know, there are 10 judges that have written this complaint because although he's now supporting the version that has been put on record by Judge Hlophe, well, I don't know whether he forgets or he deliberately chooses to forget that he had previously went to 10 judges and given them a different version of events.
Yeah, I think with that case, what we do know is that the Judicial Service Commission wants that looked into, and I really hope that that's one that is resolved quite quickly, because, as you mentioned, it's a number of judges complaining against a colleague, and the accusation really speaks to the integrity of judges, whether or not he has lied about this issue of the assault, and the colleagues at the court are saying that if he has lied, he shouldn't be a judge anymore. Now, I think where that is quite critical is that, you know, the perception of the judiciary has to be one that is in a way beyond reproach. You've got judges, yes, they have to reason their judgments, but at the same time you expect them to deal with issues in an honest manner. There's a judicial code of conduct that they all have to ascribe to, that they have to make sure that they are upholding at all times. And definitely lying about something would not be in line with that judicial code of conduct. So a very, very serious issue there. And I think that's also why the issue of Judge Hlophe and what's going on with his complaints is quite important, because the allegations that he's facing are of gross misconduct. Now, there are 3 ways that a judge can be impeached. One would be misconduct, gross misconduct. The second would be incapacity, and the third, I think I've just forgotten it now. But they're all quite serious matters. And I think it's very important for us to remember that, you know, judges are here to serve us as well. Yes, they are decision makers, but ultimately they are here to serve the nation. So when you have complaints hanging over judges' heads for a long period of time, it brings into question their ability to be able to serve us effectively. And also the fact that judges are actually paid beyond the time that they retire. That is also quite important, because judges are meant to have security of tenure, but you also want to make sure that when they have that security of tenure, that they don't have any issues that are hanging over them.
Indeed. Diane, much appreciated. Thank you very much. Our contributing editor here at Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405, Diane Walker, for bringing that story to us, as well as research and advocacy officer at Judges Matter, Mbegezeli Benjamin, helping us through this conversation tonight.